You all right? My name's Paul. I've got autism and I make random videos about my version of autism and I stick them on the internet just in case you fancy giving them a watch. And this is three questions where I answer three questions that you've sent in to my email address and I will answer them to the best I can in a video. That's about it. I'll leave a little bit of a write up about the whole what it's about in the description because otherwise we'll be here until the cows come home. But basically, I've been sent questions about what I've said. Could I clarify things a bit more? I've been asked questions about autism and how do I feel about this? What do I feel about this flavor of the month? And I've been asked questions why I attack people and you know all sorts. I'll be asked scenario based questions about this is going on in my life. What would you do? And I just find it interesting. I find it interesting that people will reach out and ask me, this guy, why anybody would ask me a question apart from directions. I find it mad that people would ask me questions, but I kind of appreciate it as well. So this is my way of saying, all right, I'll try and answer it. So, yes, everything will be anonymous, but like I say, I'll leave a little bit of a write up because I want to get into the video because they want to be shorter. That's the whole point. I'm doing shorter videos, and this is a way of doing it. So, these three questions are autism related because why not? It's an autism channel. So, let's just rock and roll, shall we? So, the first question asked is, do I use sensory toys? And if so, which toys do I recommend? And what I'll say is that's two questions, so crafty. And the real answer is no, I don't. I don't use sensory toys. I was diagnosed at 34, so I was out of the playing with toy phase. Where I am on the spectrum, I don't play with toys. I'm obsessed with the computer. I'm obsessed with the guitar. But I don't actually play with toys. I wish I still had all my Mask figures. Do you remember Mask? If you're about my age, you will. And they had Boulder Hill, they had the Hurricane Razorback car, all these awesome cars that used to turn into something else, and it was awesome. And if I could get my hands on them, I'd have that. But that's for another time. But because I was my school, for example, it was a deprived area. The only toy we had was a box of Buckaroo, the board game. We had that, but all the pieces were missing and the donkey was broke. So, it's not exactly something you'd be able to say, oh, yeah, we had a range of things and, these fidget spinners and what have you, they felt better. That was never the case. And plus, it was the 80s, there wasn't toys, it was board games. It was either a bike, a crap console like Sega Master System or whatever, and then it was board games. So many board games. Um, so there just wasn't sort of the opportunity for me to even come into contact with sensory toys. But what is interesting, or it is for me, is I watch videos from a guy called Kevin Chapman. And if you've seen him before, he's got a very popular couple of channels on YouTube. One of them's about his life, and he's got a stepson who's autistic, and the other one is about Football Manager. And I've got a lot of time for his videos. I really like them, even if he does ignore me when I send him emails. But what was interesting is he was doing a video where he was opening things that people had sent to his PO box for Andy, his stepson, and there was like chewies, there was materials, which were good for sensory, flashing things, and it was cool. I'm thinking I need a PO box. People can send me Mask figures if you find them. But I was sat there watching it going, why do people need sensory toys? What is that about? And then there was me with a pen in my hand. Now, for those with an eagle eye, will know I'm always fiddling with something. My hands are down here and I'm fiddling, but it's for the good reason. There's a pen in my hand, nothing else, you mucky-minded people. And, I always need something because if my hands can be anxious, then the rest of me doesn't have to be as anxious. So I'm usually always passing the pen through my fingers in a very weird way and or I'm just always sticking my finger through this bottom part and just sort of wiggling it around, and I don't know, just always playing with a pen. And then at work, I also do the same. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that, like I say, if my hands can keep anxious, then somewhere my body has somewhere for the anxiety to go into my hands, and that's fine. And the fact that I fiddle with a pen might have been done subconsciously because it's a very natural tool to be using outside, isn't it? Not anymore. People don't use pens, they use technology. But, in my work, I can get away with having a pen in my pocket. And for me to have a pen, if I am anxious and I'm talking and I've got one in my hand and I'm just doing something with it, it reduces my anxiety, which I suppose would be the point of a sensory toy. Um, and it just calms me down. So, because I don't want to be seen, I don't want to be heard, I just want to crack on and that's it. The pen is mightier than the fidget spinner in my case. So, yeah, I don't have sensory toys, so I can't recommend any. But for me, the pen does the trick. Okay. The second question, which was ridiculously interesting to learn about for me, was, do I wear a sunflower lanyard? And I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't even have a clue what a sunflower lanyard was. I didn't, because it's not like once you're autistic, you get signed up for the autism, newsletter or something. Nothing's like that. And because I'm not a person who, people who've watched me before all know I'm not into educating myself too much on autism, because I never want to be swayed. I only ever want my autistic thought. And yeah, it can be picked apart. That's absolutely fine, but it comes from a pure place. It's not influenced. So I don't do too much reading on things. I don't visit many autism channels anymore. And I did a bit of reading, and the sunflower lanyard, for those who don't know, is a lanyard with sunflowers on it, and it's to represent autism, and maybe other potential mental impairments. I'm not sure, but it's to represent autism. So if I was working in a supermarket and I see someone with the sunflower lanyard on, I'm allowed to assume that they've got autism. So, I might ask if they need assistance, or, just keep an eye, make sure that they're not looking like they might be overwhelmed, or whatever it might be for. I'm not fully sure, but it's a provision anyway. And then I went on and just typed in sunflower lanyard autism, and there's this video from this guy called Callum. I think his name's Callum, an English guy. And I watched a bit of his video because it was a clickbait video, because it said why I burnt the sunflower lanyard. And what he said, something so interesting, and it didn't blow my mind. It wasn't that exciting, but it was a real, thing, which I thought, why has nobody made this known? And he was basically saying, because he doesn't seem autistic, like I don't seem autistic to that stereotypical, mannerism. But you split me open, and I'm autistic to the top. I'm riddled with it. And he was saying that when he's at an airport, he can put his sunflower lanyard on and basically not queue with all his luggage and not queue through all the security. Now, the reason I don't go on holiday and the reason I get so anxious and bothered and stressed and upset is because I don't do queues. When I'm going to a hotel, when I'm working away, I'll pull up in the car park and I'll watch. And if a lot of people are going in with the clothes, with the bags, I know each check-in's going to be between 2.5 to 5 minutes. So I've got to then guess how long it's going to take for me to, walk in and basically give me the least amount of time to be stood in a queue. If I'm walking past a coffee shop, like there's a Cafe Nero near me, and if there's more than 4 people in the queue, I know they're going to be 10 minutes because they're really slow. And I won't go and get a coffee. Same with food courts. If there's a lot of people at the checkouts, I will not go and queue up because I just can't deal with queues. So on holiday, I'm exactly the same, but it's 10 times worse because people stand close to you, and people have got trolleys with their, suitcases on, and they bang in the back of your legs. Like, you're not going to get seen quicker by hitting me. Chances are I'm going to hit you back. It's so stressful. And then, like, when you're queuing up in the security part, you meet sensory overload with the smells because, like, say Terminal 2, for example, at Manchester Airport, I don't know if it does now, but it never had an outside area for people who smoke. So what people would do on land side is they'd have the last cigarette, get in the queue, and then you'd be stood in this queue for about 45 minutes to an hour with people smelling of cigarettes, perfume, aftershave, hairsprays, skin lotion, suntan lotion, all these smells combined. And then they stand really close to you because, again, the closer they stand, the sooner they'll get seen, which doesn't work. And it's too much. So now I know that these exist, and this Callum guy said you wear them, you approach them, you let them know about it, and you get pushed through quicker. You had better believe your woolly little socks that I will be getting one of these lanyards if I go on holiday for that reason, because it seems to make a heck of a lot of sense to me to do something like that. But outside of something which causes me a lot of stress in a situation I can't control, the rest of it I try and control without having a sunflower lanyard on, because, just like not having a fidget spinner and having a pen, I need to blend in to cause less attention to myself. So I won't be wearing one generally. And I know a lot of people do, and I'm certainly not knocking you. It's just, as always, my opinion, just as you, my friends, are allowed yours. And the third and final question was very interesting because it's things I never think of asking myself, but it was, what's the best thing about having autism? I don't know. But I won't mock, I won't tease, I won't make light, and I won't jest, because I get emails from people who say, I hate having autism. And that makes me sad because I don't know why. I'd like to think people genuinely know themselves, because you've got to know who you are to know how to move forward. You can't, I've told you before, but I was a liar. A liar. And it wasn't because I wanted to lie to people, it's because I wanted to fit in. So I would tell people what they wanted to hear. I would be who they wanted me to be. My very persona to the core was just a lie, because I didn't want to show the real me, because I liked the people I might have been near at the time. And, it wasn't good. And it took me a long time to unpick everything, every part of that, to rebuild myself back up in my image. And you know what? A lot of people don't like it. And that's fine, because I know I'm not a bad person. I try to do selfless things where I can to my level. And I'm not doing anything detrimental. I'm just not detrimental. I don't see the point. So the people who've come and gone once I've decided to make me first, uh, that's not my problem. So I'd like to think people who don't like having autism, I'd like to think that they've taken the time to know themselves, know what makes them tick, knows what makes them happy, what makes them sad, things that they need. Are they making the right provisions for themselves? Don't expect everybody to do everything for you. You've got to do it first yourself. So it does make me sad when I read people don't like having autism, because there's no reason not to. We live in a world which isn't designed for it. I fully get that. I experience it every day. But what's the best thing? For me personally, again, personal opinion, we're all allowed them. I would have to say that I think the best thing about autism is I don't have the same expectations and societal norms that everybody else seems to. You might be different in your circles, but the ones I've been in, the ones I'm closest to at the minute and have been for a while, people are really interested in, and what do you do for a living? And if I said I flip burgers, I would get a look given to me like, oh, like it's a bad thing that I'm gainfully employed. That's all I see. I just think I've got a job and I get a discount, on burgers. Can't beat that, can you? But if a burger flipper made £250,000 a year, I'm pretty sure they'd look at me very differently. So it just shows it's all about your status and your wealth. You know, people who talk like you might say to someone, "How have you been?" "Oh, not bad, but I'm good. I'm looking forward to this, and I'm doing that, and I've got this." And it's like, calm down. You don't have to promote yourself to me because all I smell is that you reek of insecurity. Calm yourself down. You know, I just don't get it. You know, if you've got money in the bank and you don't spend it, then you've got just as much as I have. Because I'm not spending mine either. And I might have 10 pence in my bank account and you might have 10 million. But if you're not spending it, you're not rich. Because it's just sat there. It's digits on a screen. I can open up Microsoft Word on the computer right now and type in 10 million. That's what you're looking at. If you're not doing anything with it, what's the point? You know, I remember being in a petrol station a good 10 years ago, and I'm in the queue, which I don't like. I've told you that. And this man walked in, like he pulled up in a Bentley and filled it up, and he just bypassed the queue and he went pump 8 and threw the money at the person on the checkout. And this guy in the queue went, "Excuse me, mate, there's a queue here," and he just turned around and he swore at him. And it was like this weird unison thing, but everyone in the queue turned on the guy and blocked the door. And basically, this big dude who challenged him in the first place made him get in the queue and stood behind him and made him sort of wait to get served. Because it's like, how dare you think you're better than me, that you don't have to queue because you've got money? You know, it was ridiculous. But thankfully, I've not got his mindset. You know, I think the best thing about having autism is I don't care about peer status. I don't care about the title of my job, and I don't care about how much money I've got in the bank. I care about is getting home, getting into comfy clothes or pajamas, ordering a takeaway, getting my feet up, being warm, and decompressing. That's it. All I want is contentment. So you can show off all you want. You won't impress this guy unless you say to me, "You know what I did on Saturday, Paul? I got my comfies on, I got the snacks out, I ordered a takeaway, I had a couple of beers, and I watched The Avengers." I'll be like, "Oh, mate, that sounds brilliant." But if you say, "Oh, yes, I've got lots of money, I went to the yacht club, and I played polo, and I've had tea with Prince Philip," like, great, you know, go and tell your other toffee friends because that just doesn't impress me, mate. Where was the pajamas in that story? Anyway, I'm waffling. So the point of this is we're meant to be shorter videos. I apologise. I'll get better at it, fingers crossed. So if you've got any questions you want me to answer, drop me an email at oldandautistic@gmail.com and I'll endeavour to answer them in the future. But until next time, thanks for watching and keep smiling.